All right. So we're recording this. So I'll end up posting this too. I've been doing this with Darby Hinton, where we watch a Daniel Boone episode, and then where it goes to commercial, we chat about some of his memories of being on Daniel Boone. And he says it's like watching his home movies.
Yeah, it is weird. I actually refreshed. I had not watched this one, but I wanted to refresh my memory before we screened.
Oh, so did you cheat? Did you go watch it like a week ago?
Yeah. And my wife just kept saying, you were so cute. What happened to you?
Oh, that's not nice. Well, Cindy Mitchum says hello too. We talked to her on Thursday, and then we roped her and Darby into doing a game show with us today that was wide open. It was interesting.
Wow.
She was good though. She was really good.
Darby's darlings and dudes.
Oh, you're a member of that?
Yeah, I haven't caught any of the showings, but I will try.
Well, maybe we'll post yours then, since you're a darling too. So he would probably like that. Or we have to come up with something where he can host it and the two of you can be on it. Would be kind of fun.
We never worked together.
You never did anything together?
Yeah. No, I met Darby just the last 4 or 5 years. Yeah. He's a good friend of Bill Mooney. And
oh, okay. From Lost in Space?
Yeah. They went to school together.
Oh.
On the lot. Daniel Boone and Lost in Space.
Oh, right. He does talk about that. That's right. And all their shenanigans at the schoolhouse. Yes.
Yeah. The other one there was Stephen Arngrim, who is.
His name keeps popping up. A lot of people keep mentioning his name. Somebody else mentioned his name recently. That's
Stephen
funny.
Was in what's that? Lost World, or I did a Western with Stephen, The Way West, when he was a little tiny kid. Yeah.
Maybe that's where it was. Maybe was you did that with John Mitchum?
That was with it was with Robert Mitchum and John Mitchum, The Way West.
Okay.
And Kirk Douglas and Richard Widmark. I mean, it was a huge cast.
And how old were you?
18.
Wow. Were you intimidated by all that? Well, you'd been in the business since you were how old, right?
Yeah. No, I was a little on that one because I was old enough to know who the hell these people were.
That you should be intimidated?
But my romantic lead opposite me was Sally Field in her first movie.
Oh, right. Somebody did mention that.
Yeah. Gave her first kiss on screen.
You put those on your resume? Are you able to put those on your resume?
Yeah, I don't know. I was lucky enough to kiss a lot of pretty women.
And they pay you for it.
And they paid me to do it.
That's awesome. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. We've got about 17 folks attending. Okay. So I want to go ahead and introduce Michael McGreevey. Tonight's episode is called Gabrielle, that many of you have seen. It's a Christmas episode. So he's got the Christmas and I've got the winter. So I think we got it covered between the two of us. How old were you when you did this episode?
I was trying to remember. I think I was 12. I looked 10 or 9. But and Diane Mountford, who plays Gabrielle, she was an older woman, but she was a year older than me. So she was probably 13 and I was probably 12.
Were you aware of the
we both looked a lot younger.
Were you aware of the show Bonanza? Like, did you watch Bonanza? So when you got the call, were you Yeah,
I was a Little Joe fan. I mean, I was like poor Michael Landon. I mean, I followed him around like a puppy for 7 days. I was a big fan. And it wasn't a big hit until this season that we're looking at, the third season, because that's when they moved to Sunday nights. But I had watched it because we had gotten a color television. So it and Wonderful World of Disney were the only two things really in color. So yeah, we watched it. But I thought I was Little Joe Cartwright, So.
Did you have to audition for the part, or did your agent just call you and say you got it?
I'm trying to remember that. I was lucky enough. I had just finished. I had come off a series as a series regular on a series called Riverboat.
Okay.
Darren McGavin and Burt Reynolds. And so I had established myself, and I think if memory serves right, I came in to meet with Tom Carr, the director, and with David Dortort, the producer, but I didn't have to try out. So,
do you remember anything about that audition?
you know, I remember, well, I remember thinking that Tom Carr was really old, the director. I love Tommy Carr though, and he knew me through my father. My father was a writer, screenwriter, and television writer, and they had done a movie together, an Audie Murphy movie called Cast a Long Shadow, just a year before. And so he knew my dad. We talked about my dad, I remember mostly. And Dortort knew my dad because all the writers, especially television writers at that time, it was a very small, tight-knit group. So I remember it was just sort of a pleasant thing. And I think they even brought my mom in to say hi at one point. But they did, Tommy told me, you know, what the part was and that they wanted me to do it. So I did it.
And you were like, Bonanza, you betcha.
Yeah, absolutely. Doing a winter Christmas show in the middle of July was an interesting, which we'll talk about. But yeah, I do remember that. And I do remember loving the cast. Even Pernell Roberts was nice to me. Most people have this thing about Pernell. He was very, very nice to both Diane and I, maybe because we were kids. I did get a sense that he didn't want to be there, even in the third season.
The second one who said that. That's
yeah,
funny.
no, you know, he came from classical theater, and this was just not his cup of tea. But he was making a ton of money. Even by then, they were making a ton of money. But the cast, I mean, Dan Blocker, we'll talk about him, Michael, of course, and Lauren Green. I mean, the father figure of all father figures. So for a 12-year-old boy, and Lauren Green was very complimentary of my acting, which I remember made me feel very good.
Now, were you an only child or do you have siblings?
I have two sisters. Well, one of my sisters is no longer with us, but I was the middle child, the only boy. My sister, my older sister was a dancer, a wonderful ballet dancer. Never went too far professionally. And my younger sister became a writer and English teacher, professor actually, and a great poet. She just published her second book of poetry. So yeah, and my mom had been a wonderful actress and director in the theater in Indiana, and later when my parents moved to Phoenix, where I was born, at the little theater in Phoenix. So that's really where I got, I think I had this wonderful director at home. So the night before we would run lines, and she was probably better than most of the directors I was working with. But I actually started as a dancer. That's what I wanted to be, the next Gene Kelly. But because I had red hair and freckles and was cute, they started giving me lines. So that's really how I got into the acting. And I really am self-taught. I mean, I learned from the actors I worked with as a kid.
So how old were you when you got your first job?
7.
And what was it? I probably should know this.
Called The Girl Most Likely, with Jane Powell, my first crush, the cutest woman in the world, who smelled like gardenias. There was a sequence in the movie, a dream sequence, where she danced with 8 little kids dressed as Indians, and Gower Champion, the famous dancer and choreographer, Marge Champion, who just passed away, was the choreographer and creator of all the musical sequences in the film. And he went to his dance school that they owned to find kids for this thing, and I was there, and they told me that I would make $129 a week, and I was 7 years old, and I said, I'll do it. So I spent the summer of my 7th year hanging out with Gower Champion and Cliff Robertson and Jane Powell.
Nice. Looks like we got a couple questions popping up. Somebody from the Authors Guild, is asking, did he play the boy in the episode? Yes, he does. Andy Clyde says, Tommy Carr was adept at rough and tumble shows, westerns, action shows. Gabrielle was not. Wonder why, in retrospect, they hired him for that. So I guess this wasn't his usual fare to direct.
Yeah, no, Tommy did all the Republic westerns, and he did that western, Audie Murphy western with my dad, a very hard-edged, shoot 'em up action. He was a real good, he and Bill Whitney were sort of the two Republic guys that were the great action directors. But the interesting thing about Tom Carr is he started as a child actor in theater.
Really?
His entire family were actors. And he had started as a kid. And I think that might have been the reason, because you had two kids in this piece, it might have been the reason that they gave him this one.
Ah, gotcha.
The other reason is series television. I later became a producer of television. Sometimes you can't pick the perfect person to direct an episode. It's a matter of scheduling more than anything else.
Gotcha. Yeah. It's like, well, you're available, we'll pick you. Andy Clyde says, how did you come to get the assignment to write Bonanza the Return? Did you give thought to including characters played by actors available, like Candy, David Canary, Jamie, Mitch Vogel, and of course, Adam Purnell Roberts? Were you instructed to omit them?
No, we wanted to figure out, actually I was instructed to write something for Dirk Blocker, and I did. I made him a journalist character in the piece. Mitch, by then Mitch didn't want to act anymore. They approached him at one point. David Canary was committed. He was on some soap. And couldn't get out of it.
One Life to Live, is that what the one he's on?
I think so, yeah. And so, yeah, we definitely did. And the story about Purnell, and David Dortort and I and the head of NBC had and Kent McRae, the producer, we had a luncheon with Purnell. And I sort of pitched to him that I'd write anything he wanted, to you. And I had sort of created, because we had his son, the character of his son, it would have been very easy. And he said, well, I don't want to do too much. And I said, no, you can do a cameo. And David Dortort said, yeah, we'll do a cameo of Purnell. And finally, I sort of told him how I would frame it. And he said, so how many days would I have to work? And Kent said, oh, only 2 days at the most. And he said, oh, I'll do it. I want $1 million.
For 2 days of work, I love it.
Everybody at the table just sort of went, like that. And Kent McRae said, well, that's not quite in our budget for now. But actually, we had a very nice luncheon. And it was, by then Purnell had the years had softened his memories of Bonanza. And he talked about the rest of the cast quite affectionately. And anyhow, I hope that answers Andy's question.
It did, and I got corrected. It was All My Children. That's the one that David Canary was on. Thank you, Carol.
Yeah, a big effort to anyone who was living, we wanted to use. Yeah.
Andy Clyde wants to know, how did the Disney atmosphere compare to the Bonanza set?
Interesting. Disney, I did a lot of work at Disney, and that lot was tailored to child actors. I mean, because they did so much work with kids. So it was different than any other place. The other major studios just didn't do that much with children, and they didn't. And I think Walt, Uncle Walt, as he wanted us all to call him, you know, sort of demanded that the children be treated the best way possible, because a lot of it depended on these kids. I mean, so the Disney lot itself was different than anything. Now, there were individual shows that you would go on. I mean, obviously, when I was on Riverboat and I was working every week, and I knew, and I was in love with Darren and Bert and all the rest, John Mitchum was on that show. You felt very comfortable. When you went on a show just as a guest star or, a one shot, sometimes you didn't feel wanted. On Bonanza, I felt wanted, especially Dan Blocker. I mean, my God, he was that guy. I mean, he was the most, although he was a lot smarter than Haas.
Haas was smart.
Oh, he was brilliant. And, but just the kindest, most open, gregarious, loving guy you'd ever want to meet in your life. I mean, he picked me up and hugged me one time, did the same thing to Diane Mountford. And Michael was a little bit of a brat at that time, but still, because he knew that I was my hero, little Joe, he was really good to me. And Lauren Green, as I said, at one point, Lauren Green, we were doing a scene and I finished, they did my close-up, I think, and he came up and he said, "You're really good." And I said, "Well, thank you." He said, "No," he said, "you've already learned that acting is reacting and you listen, don't you?" And I said, yeah, I do. So really kind people. So yeah, it was a fun show. The other thing is Kent McRae was the assistant director on the thing, and what a delightful guy. I mean, an assistant director sets the tone most of the time on those sets, and Kent, hardworking crew, they all loved him. They'd do anything for him, and he was very good with directors. And by this time, Tom Carr was, as I said, an older man. So he probably didn't have the energy that he'd had in the past. A lot of knowledge, though. Very smart, very knew where to put the camera. No question about print. Move on. This is what we do next. I mean, he was a pro, total pro.
Brenda Jackson said, "I see you did some Lassie episodes too."
Yeah, I did 3. At one point, they wanted to make me a regular. They created a character called Mike, original. And but I got Riverboat. But I did 3. I did 2. Like in 1959, and then came back and did a guest star one in 61 or 62, I think. And John Provost is a lifelong friend. I still hang with Johnny, and he did one of the Disney movies. He was in The Computer Wore Tennis Shoes. So we had like a reunion on that. And so, yeah. And his book, Timmy's in the Well,
I love the title.
He used me a lot as a comparison of his experience as a child actor to my experience, which was very different. I had the advantage of having a father in the business and just doing it. There was no pressure for me to do this. I did it because I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
I noticed that most of the people that had that situation, my friend Kurt Russell, his dad was in the business. You know, Kurt and I, Ron Howard, again, a father in the business. It was treated more like summer camp. You know, you want to go to summer camp, you can go to summer camp, you know, and on top of it, you get paid all this money.
I know that was your bonus that you got paid for it.
I do remember the first time I got a check on The Girl Most Likely, I had added up what I was supposed to get. It was 3 weeks or whatever at $129 or $126 a week. So I knew exactly that I was supposed to get $300 and something. And of course, it was only 200 and something.
Oh, after taxes.
I went into my dad. I said, they shortchanged me. I'm 7 years old. He said, oh, no, they took out taxes. And I said a line that became, in the family, it was used year after year at tax time. I said, you mean they'd even do that to a little kid?
Yep, they'll even do it to a little kid.
Yeah, they've been doing it to me for a long time.
Yeah, Kurt Russell's dad, Bing, was a regular on Bonanza.
Sheriff,
And in later years, he was the regular sheriff. Yeah, after I guess Roy
In
Coffey
fact,
retired. So
I offered Bing. I had one scene with the sheriff in Bonanza: The Return, and I called Bing and said, "You want to come back as the sheriff?" And he said, "No."
Really? He seemed like he enjoyed it. Did he ask?
No.
He didn't ask who was going to be on it. You think sometimes they want to know, well, who's going to be in it? And maybe I'll.
By then, Bing was retired and really didn't care about it. It's funny, Bing Russell and even his son Kurt always had, and Kurt to this day looks at it as a job. It's a plumber, you know. You go in, you do the job, you do it well, you do it the best you can, and you get paid. And all this other stuff doesn't mean anything. And I think the fact that he does it so well, obviously, has been to his advantage. But I think that's a reason he's lasted so long. He's not trouble, you know. He's never been a star, and neither has his mate Goldie. Goldie's the same way.
They got a new movie out. They have
they've got
the new
Chronicles 2, the Chris.
Yeah.
They're Mr. and Mrs. Claus.
Which was funny because the other one, the part one, Goldie was revealed at the end as being Mrs. Claus, so that was kind of cool. And then that's neat. They're doing one together.
And that just happened by accident.
Oh, did
They
it?
actually cast another woman, but Goldie was up there. She had come up to spend time with Kurt, and Chris Columbus. I guess they were out to dinner one night and said, "How'd you like to surprise our audience?" You know. And she said, "Yeah, I'll do it." So
She did. It was a good surprise because you're like, oh, nice.
yeah.
So that's good. Looks like we got a few more questions. Let's see. But maybe we should go ahead and get started with Bing was our Clem. I guess he was Deputy Clem,
yeah.
and then he became the sheriff, I guess.
Well, that was the interesting thing with and a show like Bonanza, and the same thing happened on Gunsmoke and these shows that ran for so many years, is this pool of character actors, you know, they did 7, 8, 9, 10 episodes as different characters. As long as they were spread out over a year or 2 seasons, they reused them. You know, Morgan Woodward, I think, did 18 Gunsmokes and 11 Bonanzas. Kevin Hagen, who plays my father in Gabrielle.
Yes, I know. We all know him from Little House, right?
He did
His
5.
Doc Baker. Oh, did he really do that many?
And that he did 5 Bonanzas, and that relationship, obviously, that he built with Michael on Bonanza paid off so that he became the doctor on Little House.
Yeah, Michael grabbed, it seemed like a lot of actors because the one who was the pastor, he was in a Bonanza, and it seems like you saw a lot of them that crossed over. So
yeah, Dab's great. You had all these great guys. It's the same thing with Victor French. You know, they'd known each other since Michael had started, and Victor had done small parts. I think he did a couple Bonanzas.
I don't know. Andy, I guess I'm gonna let Andy field that one.
Yeah, and then I know he obviously Little House. They became, major friends. And,
oh yeah, and then Highway to Heaven, of course, he was.
Yeah, well, that pretty much nailed poor Michael. I was pretty close to him then. I was doing Fame at the MGM studios while they were doing Highway to Heaven. In fact, Michael wanted me to be the story editor on Highway to Heaven, and I took Fame.
Was it Highway to Heaven or was it Little House? It was Highway to Heaven?
It was Highway to Heaven. No, he wanted me to do Little House, but I was on the Waltons. So every time we wanted to work together, I did do a Father Murphy for him, and that was a pleasure. But yeah, no, I was going to say on Highway to Heaven and Victor French, they'd become so close. And when Victor was diagnosed, I've never seen Michael so upset. He just, and basically, I think that's why they didn't go forward another season, because he just couldn't do it without Victor.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been the same show, that's for sure.
No, and Victor they were trading off towards the end. They were trading off directing every show. It was just the two of them directing that show. So Victor would do one week and Michael would do the next. Victor would prep while he was.
Oh, that's smart. That probably moved the process along really fast. So that was smart.
Well, that's the other thing that obviously Michael learned on Bonanza from a lot of good directors, working with all those great television directors like Bill Claxton, and he really learned his craft, and the crews on Little House and Highway to Heaven never changed. In fact, that's the crew we used on Bonanza: The Return.
Really? Wow.
Because they were totally loyal to Michael. He always paid them more than anybody else would have. And he always finished work at 4:00 in the afternoon. They all got to go home to their families, which
wow.
in series television was, unheard of.
So now, speaking of your craft, so when did you cross over from acting into, did you go to producing next or did you go to writing next and then?
Writing, yeah. I had gone to UCLA film school. I sort of wanted to drop out of the business and just go through college and get another perspective. But fortunate enough, I was able to stay in college and also do several movies and keep working while I got my degree in film and television from UCLA. And so having grown up with a writer, I also started to write and wanted to start doing that. And I sort of knew that was the entree into producing and directing too, in television especially. So, and what happened with my acting career, I had done all these serious roles, but at Disney, I started doing these comedic roles, and I became known as this comedic Disney actor, and sort of got typed. And in those days, that happened a lot. If you worked, and I did work a lot at Disney, you were sort of considered not part of the group. So my acting career started to dry up a little bit, and that's when I started writing and started getting jobs. So
what was the first thing you wrote? Did you do a spec script for something that we would know?
I did a spec script that they completely rewrote for Barney Miller.
Oh, really? You picked Barney Miller as your first one?
Yeah, and I was shocked that they completely rewrote me. The second thing I did was the Waltons.
Really?
Yeah, and that was a better experience because my dad knew Earl Hamner very well, and Earl Hamner became one of my mentors. And then the next thing I wrote, I was lucky enough to to collaborate with my father. We did a 3-hour CBS television movie, a one night, special movie called Ruby and Oswald.
Oh, wow.
Which was about the Kennedy assassination.
Right.
And serious stuff. And I was lucky enough. I did all the research, and I spent almost.
I was going to say, you must have felt a lot of pressure to do a lot of research for something like that. That's pretty heavy duty material.
That's why they allowed me to work with my dad.
His reputation, you do the research, right?
Yeah, they didn't want me to work my butt off, and that they had the safety net of having one of the best television writers, working with me on it. So and I learned a lot on that particular project, and it turned out really well. I mean, it was both a critical and a ratings success. And then I just started getting work from then. I did an Incredible Hulk. I did Wonder Woman, and then I got on shows, which is what you want to do, and I just at that point didn't feel the need to continue trying to act, even though I always loved acting. I was so busy writing, and then I became a writer-producer, and then I got to direct, and it never occurred to me to try to keep acting.
It's hard once you're in charge to go back to being the one told what to do, right?
Yeah. Well, it was really interesting to be in casting sessions as a producer, writer, for the first time, because I finally realized, that it wasn't just about your talent as an actor. That there was a lot of other things that went in. I used to get very mad. I'd go out on an audition and nail it, and not get the job, and not understand why. That was another reason I wanted to quit. And the perspective that I got once I was casting other actors was, the best actor doesn't always get the part. It's a puzzle, you have to put the pieces together, and casting is sometimes brutally unfair. It is. As
you learned the hard way, it sounds like.
I scared the hell out of an actor one time on Fame. He came in, he read that he was the best actor by far that came in that day. All wrong for the part. Just didn't, wasn't right at all. He was too old. But he was so good. And he left the room, and everybody went, "Gee, that's a shame," blah, blah, blah. And I said, "Yeah, just a second." And I ran out of the room, and he was going down the hall in the Gable building at MGM. And I said, "Hey," whatever his name was. And he stopped and turned. And I came up to him and I said, "You didn't get the part, but you're a wonderful actor."
Just what an actor really doesn't want to hear, but they do want to hear.
And I remember this guy looking at me and like, "You're a total jerk." And the casting director berating me, saying, "Don't ever do that again, Mike."
That was your inner actor feeling his pain and wanting to.
Yeah, I mean, and you walk out of there, and you never know why you didn't get it,
Well, on that note, we probably should get started with this episode. So the way this is going to work is I've actually broke it down into 3 segments. So the first segment is about 18 minutes long, and then it'll dip to black for like the commercial, and we'll come back and we'll chat a little bit about it. I think
I think I'm hardly in the first section, so.
Yeah, you're either at the end of the first or you're really heavy in the second and third parts, but we'll come back and see what you remember about the initial stuff and, where it was shot and blah, blah, blah. All that. We'll come up with something. I don't think we're going to have problems with the conversation. So, okay. But so for anybody, as you guys are doing pretty good already, but obviously if you have questions, post them in the Q&A. I don't look at the chat. And
there's
then
lots of inside stuff I can talk about on this episode. So.
What's that? Make sure
a lot of inside stuff that I can talk about
We
from
like
this
it.
episode.
Okay, well, that's good. Ooh, we're excited. So we need to get rolling here so we know what you're talking about.
They'll find it interesting, I think.
We wouldn't have had you on the show if we didn't think it was going to be interesting. So, so that's good. So I'm going to go ahead and start this. When it rolls, just turn off your microphone. Just click your mic and your camera, and otherwise they'll see you watching the episode.
I have to mute it, right?
Yeah, so click on the camera and click on the microphone. All right, so we'll be right back. So this is Gabrielle with guest star Michael McGreevey playing Jeremy Pastor, which I'm not sure we'll see for a while. But the first segment is 18 minutes long. Just to give you the background on this, its air date was December 24th, 1961 is when it aired. It was actually written by Anthony Lawrence, who we all saw in a panel earlier, who did all the Ben's wives stories. And as he mentioned, it's also directed by Thomas Carr. So we'll go ahead and get started. And this is Gabrielle.
The following program is brought to you in living color on NBC.
Must be his wife. She dead too?
Yeah. Wonder how it happened.
I don't know. Reckon something must have spooked the horses. Broke the tree. Wagon came tumbling down. That road's icy.
We're heading for high country. Wonder who they are.
I don't know. Look around and see if you can find anything to identify him by.
Right.
Joe, see if you can find a shovel.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe.
What is it?
It's a kid's little toy bear.
Maybe we better have a look around.
Hey, Joe. Hey, Joe. Honey.
Let me go!
We're gonna help you, baby. Honey.
Oh, she's blind.
I've already talked to Sheriff Coffey about this, but I was wondering if when you got back into town, perhaps you could look around and see if you could find any relatives of hers.
I'll do that.
Yes, she's our responsibility.
Good night, Ben. Boys.
Thank you for coming out, Doctor.
Thank you.
Little gal has a lot of spunk, Paul. Fought like a wildcat this afternoon when I grabbed hold of her.
What do we do now, Pop? That's a good question. I don't know how to take care of a little girl, particularly one who's... It isn't going to be easy. be frightened, darling. No one is going to hurt you. Get you back into bed here. There we are. Now, you know, my name is Ben Cartwright. My sons brought you here and brought you to our home.
Mama. Papa.
Now, don't you worry about anything, darling. Everything's going to be real fine.
They're dead. Aren't they? I know they're dead. I heard Mama scream. Then the wagon fell.
Darling, please don't cry.
Yes. Only little girls cry.
That's right. And you're not a little girl, are you?
I'm almost 12.
Almost 12. Why, you're getting to be real grown up. Say, do you know something? I don't even know your name.
It's Gabrielle.
Oh, that's such a pretty name. Gabrielle, can you tell me where you and your parents were going?
To the mountain.
To the mountain?
To find Grandfather. Poor Papa. He wanted so badly to see him. For us all to be together on Christmas. Now I have to find him.
Gabrielle.
I'm so tired. Is it night out?
Yes, darling.
You all right?
Yes, I must have spooked him.
Yeah, I reckon you did a little.
I know you.
You do?
You brought me here
That's right. How'd you know that?
because you're so big.
Yeah, I reckon I am.
What's your name?
Hoss?
Horse?
No. Just plain Hoss, H-O-S-S, not H-O-R-S-E. And your name is Gabrielle. I was bringing breakfast down to you, but how'd you get out here anyhow?
I walked.
Looks like you did at that. Come on, let's go get some of that breakfast.
Just walk in front of me. I can hear your footsteps.
Feeling better?
Why is everybody standing around?
I suppose we want to see that you're enjoying your breakfast.
You're probably wondering what you're going to do with me.
Gabrielle, last night when we were talking, you mentioned your grandfather living in a mountain.
Yes. Will you take me to him?
Well, of course I will.
You promise?
I promise. Now, about your grandfather, though. Do you know where that mountain is?
I'm not sure. Papa knew. He hadn't seen Grandfather for the longest time, ever since he went to prison.
Your grandfather went to prison?
But then they found out he didn't do anything wrong to be put in prison for, so they let him go.
Gabrielle, you never did tell me your last name. Now, would it happen to be Wickham?
How did you know?
I've heard of your grandfather.
Will you take me to him like you promised?
Well, that doesn't leave me much choice then, does it? Hop Sing, why don't you take Gabrielle into the kitchen and give her one of those plum cakes that you've been making?
Joe, she don't need no help. She likes to follow. Hop Sing, just walk along in front of her. She don't like to hang on.
Was that you, Hop Sing?
I bumped into a chair.
You better watch where you're going.
So her grandfather's that old hermit up on Mount Davidson, huh?
Yeah, I'm afraid so.
What's this about prison, Paul?
Well, you were just a boy at the time. Joe wasn't even born yet. Now, they put him away in the Yuma Territorial Prison for murder.
How'd he get out?
Well, he spent about 21 years in that hole of human misery. And then they found out he wasn't guilty.
Boy, I'd have come out of there with blood in my eye.
No wonder he hates everybody.
Well, first things first. Adam, I want you to ride into Virginia City and buy her some new clothes.
Me? What kind of clothes?
How do I know? Whatever kind little girls wear. And you two, you keep an eye on her all the time. I don't care what you do. Talk to her, read to her, walk around with her, but don't let her out of your sight.
This is one of our new little coats.
He sure kisses nice.
Well, he likes you.
I guess he thinks maybe I'm his mama.
Yeah, well, he ain't got no mama. What I mean to say is, you see, when he was born, his mama...
It's all right, Hoss. He'll learn to get along by himself. Papa said everyone has to learn that.
That's old Blackie in there. He's really feeling his oats today.
I bet he's short-barreled and has real strong legs.
That's right. How'd you know that?
I can hear him. I bet he's good for climbing hills.
Dad burn it, I can tell you sure know something about horses.
I can ride, too. Papa taught me how to tell the direction by the sun on my face. That's west. And there's a mountain there, all covered with snow and great trees. That's where my grandpa is.
The beautiful bird sits no longer, singing in the nest. The cat has got it and will scratch out thy eyes as...
Go on, little Joe.
Rapunzel is lost to you. You will see her no more. Maybe you better go to sleep now, Gabrielle. Need plenty of rest if you're going to go up to the mountain and look for your grandfather tomorrow.
Will you come and visit me at my grandfather's?
Yeah, sure I will. Now look, I don't want you to get your hopes up too high about finding your grandfather tomorrow. There's a lot of wild country up there.
He'll be there. Papa said he was the kind of man who could live off the land.
It's very important to you to find your grandfather, isn't it?
Yes, little Joe. He's all alone. I don't want to leave him alone.
Look, I want you to go to sleep, okay?
Will you read the last part to me? The part that goes, and when Rapunzel's tears touched his eyes.
And when Rapunzel's tears touched his eyes, they became clear again. And he took her to his kingdom where he was received with great joy. And there they lived long and happily.
Okay, up you go.
Now, you hang on tight, Gabrielle.
Thank you, Mr. Cartwright and Adam. And don't worry, we'll find Grandfather. You'll see.
Careful now.
Bye, Gabrielle.
Bye.
Bye, Paul.
Up the horse. Careful now.
You sure this is the only way up there?
The only way, little brother. I told you the last 2 miles afoot. The old man don't like company.
Yeah, well, it's not that I don't trust you as a guide, but I think I'm gonna have a look around.
Well, don't be long.
Boss, what happened? I heard a shot.
Get out of here.
Is your name Wickham?
Devil take it, ain't none of your business what my name is. Get away from here or I'll blast you to kingdom come.
Now, hold on, old timer. Just a minute. We've come a long ways to talk with you. If your name is Wickham, this little gal here is your granddaughter.
Granddaughter? I ain't got no granddaughter. Get out of here. If you come beyond that point, I'll kill the lot of you.
I was gonna say, did we lose Michael already?
I thought I was great.
You were terrific. You were the best thing about it.
You know, the interesting thing watching that for me, I can remember asking Diane Mountford, the actress that plays Gabrielle, how she did the blind thing, you know. And she said that it was interesting. She did it so perfectly. She said she just never pretended like she could see, even though she could see. And the stare, she would do long close-ups. There's a scene between us that I'll point it out. Long close-ups and never blink. Just amazing, an amazing child actress. And I don't really know why she didn't continue, because she was beautiful too, and really good. She did the Children's Hour, the movie with Shirley MacLaine and Audrey Hepburn, and was just wonderful in it.
So you didn't stay in touch with her after you did this show together?
Did I see her?
I was saying, didn't stay in touch with her after this show?
I would see her. There was a whole group of kid actors, about all the same age, and we would be out on auditions together. And I did see her several times. And then I saw her just before, I think just before I started at UCLA. I saw her on a thing, and she said, I'm giving it up, Mike. And I said, really? She said, yeah, I don't like, a lot of good actors, they just didn't like the auditions. You know, the auditions were tough.
Somebody asked, were the similarities to Heidi apparent to you at the time? Did you know the story of Heidi?
Yeah, well, Tom Carr kept saying that.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah. Oh, he said, we're doing Heidi here, you know, Grandpa. John Abbott, and you'll see a scene later where was, you know, like a lot of guys that play these parts, these character actors, villains, the really good villains in television, in real life, they're like these sweethearts, you know. And John Abbott was one of those, a wonderful actor. And you'll see the scene later where he scared the crap out of me, because he was so different off camera than he was on camera, obviously, because he was playing a role. But I've noticed that there was a wonderful actor named Jack Lambert who had this always the bad guy. And he got to do Riverboat. He got to play a normal person on Riverboat. And he was having so much fun just being normal, you know. But sometimes you just get locked in to be the bad guy, you know.
Yeah, somebody had asked about when you were talking about Kurt Russell earlier. How did Kurt Russell manage to avoid the Disney typecast, since he did so many Disney pictures as well?
Well, talent, number one, and opportunity. He had, when I started writing, he wrote with me. We wrote a couple things together we didn't sell. And he moved to Colorado and was really sort of like this hermit, and was writing and nothing was happening. And I got a call. He said, I'm in town back in LA. And I said, why are you here? And he said, I'm trying out for a TV movie. And I said, what? And he said, Elvis. And I said, are you out of your mind? And he said, yeah, you know, I could do it. I said, that's like playing Hitler. I said, you know, you're going to be destroyed no matter what happens. He said, well, I probably won't get it. Well, he got it. I don't know if people remember, and he was brilliant. And it really, that was the moment that everybody knew that Kurt Russell wasn't just a Disney actor. He was an actor. He was nominated for an Emmy. He should have won the Emmy that year. I went with him in season. He married the actress that played Priscilla, Susan Hubley. And that's really what pulled him out of the whole Disney thing. And I didn't get that opportunity, you know.
Well, you have had a pretty good career too, though.
Yeah, but I think to have pulled myself out of the Disney typecasting, especially the roles that I played over there, which were not the brightest people in the world, and they were comedic, very comedic. I would have had to have had a shocker like Kurt got with Elvis, I think.
Was there ever a role that you wished that you were up for that you didn't get that you wished you had gotten?
Oh yeah.
Like, is there that one that got away, or?
I had done a movie called Man in the Net, starring Alan Ladd, and it was directed by a man named Michael Curtiz, who is legend. Casablanca, Adventures of Robin Hood. Awful man, but a great director. And after it was really only a year after I finished Man in the Net, working with Mr. Curtiz, that he was doing The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. And I was the right age, and boy, I was Huck Finn. And we did screen tests, came down to me and another actor, Eddie Hodges. And Eddie got it. It's the one role that I really thought I should have. It was painful. I went to see the movie, and it was that thing where, God, I would have been so much. You hate to do that, but I really think I would have been. Fast forward, when I run into two writers at Warner Brothers, and pitching for TV movies or something with them, and they said, "Weren't you an actor?" And I said, "Yeah." And they said, "We've got a project called Sawyer and Finn. It's about Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer grown up. We'd love you to try out for it." So I went through that all again, screen tests, the whole thing again. And my poor wife, she hadn't lived with an actor at that point. She'd only lived with a writer. And came down to me and one other guy. Peter Horton was Tom Sawyer. I loved it. I didn't get it. The head of casting at NBC, Joel Thurm, said I wasn't sexy enough. Why Huckleberry Finn should be sexy, I don't really know. But, anyway, and it was like deja vu all over again. It was like, oh, I hate this acting thing. I hate, I hate the auditioning and the unfairness of it all. So that was it. Never did it again. Yeah.
And you wish that casting director had come after you and said, "You're a great actor. You just didn't get the part," right?
I think Joel Thurm did. He sort of did that to me.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, because I worked with Joel. Joel stayed at NBC, and he actually was the head of casting for when we did Bonanza: The Return.
Oh, okay. That's funny. Okay, let's see. Let's keep going here. So somebody said she wasn't really blind, right? We've already established that. But if not, she sure was convincing. You had said how she really enjoyed that. Here's a long one from Andy Clyde. You mentioned you have the lingering impression that Purnell didn't want to be there. He was often quoted for, or purported to have said, "I'm tired of my character always saying, 'What do we do now, Pa?' implying Adam was an infantile adult unable to make a decision. In fact, Purnell said that troublesome line once only in this show, and Lorne replied, 'I wish I knew. I don't know anything about little girls,' or some such." So I don't know, was there a question in there, Andy, or just a statement?
Well, no, I think actors do that, especially actors with the background that Purnell Roberts had. He was theater, classical, Shakespearean stuff. He had been in plays where the writing was really good. And not to take anything away from Tony Lawrence, he was a really good writer, especially for a television writer. And but I can see. I remember Ralph Waite cornering me in a hallway on the Waltons, and saying, "Don't ever write 'It's all right, son,' for me again."
Oh, seriously?
Yeah,
A specific line he didn't want, huh?
it was 9 years of playing, Paul Walton, and which he did brilliantly, I thought. But actors get sick of, they feel caught in series television does that to actors. It's unfortunate. But some people are just happy to be there, like Dan Blocker. he just thought he was the luckiest guy that ever lived, and he was Hoss. And that scene with him and the girl in that first act, I mean, it's so tender and kind. I mean, that he was this big guy who was just sweetheart, it was just, and that's why America loved him.
Yeah, that's true. His birthday was Thursday. We were celebrating his birthday.
43. He died at 43.
I know. I didn't realize so young.
And Michael was only 54, I think.
I'm sure somebody will type that in there for us if you're not right.
I think Michael was 54 and 43.
That's young. I didn't realize that.
And the show, they I guess they talked about going on, and they did a couple, but they were right to not go forward because Hoss was the heart of the piece. He really was.
I would agree with that. Yeah. Carol Trent says, thank you for being a part of this Christmas episode. It is very special and is the only Christmas themed ep that featured the full original cast. The other one was filmed after Purnell left, which I think is the Wayne Newton one must be. But, so there you go. You're a part of Bonanza history. You're permanently ingrained in Bonanza history.
Well, I'm sure it's the only one where the four of them sang a Christmas carol together.
That's true.
I remember that on the set. I mean, it was like, because usually they do a pre-record, and to get all four of them together for something like that, I guess logistically was too hard. So they did a recording off camera with them. So we all sat around and listened to them sing that damn song 4 or 5 takes. And then
song, it's joy to the world. Come on, Michael, where's your Christmas spirit?
and then they used the playback, yeah. But that was the other thing. I do remember that, Purnell was, a really good singer. And the only one of those 4 that was a really good singer. And he was very reluctant to do that.
Really? Because he looks like he's really enjoying himself as he's singing it.
He got into it finally, yeah. But
because, they released a Christmas album. There was actually a Bonanza Christmas album, so guess they all had to get with the program.
Yeah, well, yeah, you're under contract. You do what you're told.
So Andy says Kurt Russell's dad, Bing Russell, played Elvis's dad. So I guess, was it just not only Kurt, but his dad was also in that movie as well? Or was that a different Elvis movie?
No, he played
same movie.
Vernon Presley, yes. And Kurt often got Bing jobs. Bing was in all the Disney movies with us, small parts, and Kurt always took care of Dad, and vice versa. Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, Bing was a very good actor. I got both of them. It got canceled. It's been pushed off till April of 2021. I got Kurt. He's going to be inducted into the Cowboy Hall of Fame.
Oh wow!
Yeah, in Oklahoma City. And they always do a living person, and they do a posthumous one. And we're going to do Bing.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah, so it'll be cool.
Now, is that you and Cindy that worked on that? Cindy Mitchum? I said, was that you and Cindy Mitchum that worked on that? Because she's in, isn't she in Oklahoma? It was you.
A wonderful guy named Wyatt McCrae, who was Joel McCrae's grandson. and Wyatt is on the board of the Cowboy Hall of Fame. And,
Oh, nice. He makes the rounds to the cowboy conventions, doesn't he?
yeah, he does. And he approached me at Lone Pine and said, would Kurt do that? And I said, you know, Kurt doesn't really like those things. But that's the one I knew that he'd be attracted to, because he's a pretty good cowboy in real life. And he's got a ranch in Colorado and he runs cattle still. So not quite as much as he used to, but he's a for real cowboy. If you watch Tombstone, all the riding stunts were done by him.
Oh, great. I forgot he was in that. Wow, that's funny.
Yeah.
He was great in Tombstone. I'd forgotten about that. Okay. Carol Trent says, you very much still look like the little boy Jeremy that you portrayed. Your eyes are very distinctively that little boy. So I guess you'll always be a little boy at heart, right?
Wow. I wish I was that cute still.
You're still that cute. I didn't even realize you had a mustache till you got really close to the camera.
Yeah. I don't really have one yet. I just started growing it.
Is that a COVID mustache, as they say?
Yeah, it's a COVID mustache for sure. We do anything to try to get out of Groundhog Day, you know? Something different.
Yeah, right. Gene Hibbins said Purnell's wife told her once that being an actor requires a very thick skin. I'm sure you were taught that at a very young age.
Yes, and I complained about auditions and all that, but I think it's a wonderful way to learn about life, because if you don't know how to take a rejection, you're not going to survive in this world, and actors live with rejection. Every star I've ever known has told me a story about a producer or an agent or a director or somebody sitting them down and saying, listen, you're never going to make it. You have no talent. You're not good enough. Somebody will tell you that, along the road. I mean, nobody gets out of jail free. You all are going to be treated like that by somebody, and there's a lot of reasons for it. There's ego and competition and that sort of stuff. But I think it's a great life lesson, learning how to deal with that kind of rejection. But you do have to have pretty thick skin.
Darby Hinton once told me too, as a child actor, it's almost like a drug when you do get the part and you are on the set, and then when you're no longer on the set anymore and having to go back to real life, it's really tough, especially when you're a kid and you enjoy where you are, I suppose. Well,
you're treated, like a king, and you're 10 years old. I mean, it's a false sense of, grandiosity that you get as a child actor, and then most child actors, all the complaints I hear from this group that I've sort of been a part of is that they turn adults and they expect to be treated that way still, and they learn the hard lesson that you have to be an adult, and it's a tough world and a lot of competition in it. And that's why so many child actors, I think, end up having problems with addictions and becoming an adult.
Are you part of Paul Peterson's group, the minor consideration one, or is it a different one?
And Paul has pulled back from it now. He did a great job. And Paul had some tough experiences too. I did a guest shot on Donna Reed with him. Anyhow.
Is that the one where you had the crush on his mother?
No.
Was that you, or was that somebody else?
I had a motorbike and I crashed it on the front lawn and pretended to be hurt.
That's what.
Yeah, I was a little jerk. Great week though for me, because again, I was in love with Shelley Fabre and Donna Reed. So I got to work with both of them. I think Shelley would have, you know, she was probably happy I was gone. I think I followed her around like I followed Mike Landon.
That's probably why they liked you. They probably were flattered you followed them around.
Yeah.
Patina wants to know, did Disney have a school on the lot, or did Michael go to regular school? Did you go to public school, or did you go to school on the lot?
Well, I did both. You would, if you were on a series like Riverboat, you would always go to school at Universal, where I was the whole year. I think my 5th and 6th grade, I was, and Darby on Daniel Boone would have been on the, but you would go back because you'd finish the season in let's say mid-March or early April. So you'd go back for those couple of months before to regular school. Disney had they had a red schoolhouse, but it was a trailer, but it was typical of Disney that they made it. And I can't remember her name. They had the most famous studio teacher there. Anyhow, yeah.
You'll think of it while we watch the episode. You'll probably think of it.
I actually benefited from those 2 years on Riverboat, from going to school, because it was just me and the teacher. It was me and Miss Mullins was my teacher, and it was like having a private tutor for 2 years. I got so far ahead, it really turned me into a student. Other people like John Provost say he didn't, it ruined him. It didn't give him, but Lassie was a different situation. He was in every scene, and they worked his little behind off. And, yeah, and I think it was 8 years. I mean, most of his childhood was spent doing Lassie. So.
Wow. I guess let's go ahead and get back to the episode so we don't run out of time. And this is going to be your big entrance here, so we have to.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll do some more recollections. So this segment is about 14 minutes long, so it's a little bit shorter. But I think you get to make your premiere in this one, so that'll be good. So we'll be back in about 14 minutes.
Okay, great.
Continuing on with Gabrielle.
We did all we could, Pa. He just didn't want to have anything to do with us or with Gabrielle.
It was the wildest looking thing you ever saw, boy. He had long hair hanging down like this and a big beard and meaner than all get out, too. He kind of looked like Rip Van Winkle just waking up, didn't he, Joe?
Yeah.
What about her? What did she say?
Well, she got pretty angry at us and we wouldn't let her go over and talk to him.
She's kind of quiet all the way home.
Excuse me. Gabrielle.
Why did he say I wasn't his granddaughter? Why? Didn't he want me, Mr. Cartwright?
Well, you mustn't think of it that way, darling. It isn't that he didn't want you. You see, he's been living a strange kind of life.
Hoss and little Joe should have let me talk to him.
Well, I don't know how much good that would have done.
But I'm his granddaughter. He should love me, even if he doesn't love anybody else.
Yes, darling, that's true. But you know, you can't make someone love you if they don't want to. You're grown up now, Gabrielle. You have to understand that. Now, you just lean back and have a nice rest. You've had a long trip.
How is she?
Yeah, she's hurt. There's one thing, though, about her. She has an amazing amount of fortitude.
Yeah, what do we do now?
I really don't know.
Paul, you figuring on keeping her here?
Oh, she's an 11-year-old girl. She's blind.
Hey, look, Pa, we could do it.
Sure we could, Paul. I'll keep an eye on her.
I will, too. We can't just throw her out. You said we accepted the responsibility.
Well, I'm glad to hear that's the way you feel, but we're not equipped for it. She needs a home, the right kind of home, and a place where she can be taken care of properly.
Yeah, but where are you going to find that? Paul, there ain't an orphan's home nowhere around here.
Well, there's got to be somebody who would take her in, give her the proper care and the kind of love her own parents gave her, maybe even adopt her legally. How about the Pastors?
The livery stable owner?
We've known them for a long time. They're marvelous people. And they have a boy about a year or two older than she is.
Mm-hmm. Didn't they have a daughter once, too?
Yeah, and that's just it. They lost her when she was just a little baby, typhoid. I think the Pastors would be very happy to take Gabrielle into their home. I'm going to get her some milk and cookies. That's the story, Drew. A little girl, all alone. Nowhere to go.
Nowhere to go? Ben Cartwright, you bring that child right here.
You've known us long enough, Ben. You should have brought her with you.
Well, Everett, there's one thing I didn't tell you. Gabrielle is blind.
Blind? Oh, poor child.
That's why I didn't bring her along with me. I thought I'd better tell you all about her so you'd have a little time to think it over.
Ben, there's nothing to think over. She's all alone, isn't she?
Well, no, not exactly alone. She has a grandfather. Maybe you've heard of him. Zachariah Wickham.
Wickham. You mean that wild hermit up on Mount Davidson?
Yeah, that wild hermit up on Mount Davidson. You know, Hoss and Little Joe took the little girl up there, thinking that maybe the sight of her would have some effect on him. You know, make him change his way of living so that he could take care of his own granddaughter. Didn't change him one bit.
Ben, you weren't thinking of leaving the child with that man. Why, I heard that he just shoots at anybody or anything that comes up there.
Well, that's true, but he is her grandfather, and she has no one else.
She has us. Now, you go right back to the Ponderosa and bring that child here, and I don't want to hear another word.
Well, Drew, if you're sure now.
I've never been sure of anything in my life. Well, I've got a million things to do before she gets here. Come on, Jeremy, don't just sit there, boy. Now, you go out and get the extra linen out and open the window in the back room.
You see? Ben, we're just what that girl needs. And, well, she's just what we need. Now, get along with you and bring her back.
Now, Gabrielle, you'll have a lovely home there.
I don't want to go there.
Well, you'd have everything you could possibly want. The Pastors are wonderful people, and they'd be so happy with them there.
I want to be with my grandfather.
Gabrielle, your grandfather wouldn't be able to take care of you any more than we could. You know, he lives in a man's world. So do we. And just not the right kind of place for a little girl to grow up in.
He's all alone. I could help him. I could cook for him, and I could feed the goats, and I could sew for him.
Gabrielle, will you please listen to me? Do you trust me?
Yes.
Well, then will you please do as I ask? Give the Pastors a chance. They'll be very good to you, and well, try it for a while.
For how long?
Well, until Christmas. Is that fair enough?
Yes.
Good. And we'll come and visit you most every day, and we'll be together at Christmas time, and how would you like to have the most wonderful Christmas party that's ever been given in the Ponderosa in your honor? Now, wouldn't that be a wonderful party?
Yes. If only Grandpa could be there, too.
Come in.
Well, Ben, here we are.
I'm Mrs. Pastor, Gabrielle. I'm so glad you're here. This is going to be your home now for just as long as you wish.
I'm Mr. Pastor, Gabrielle. You don't have to worry about a thing anymore. We're going to take good care of you. This is our boy, Jeremy.
Hello. You're real welcome.
Thank you.
We're going to have supper in a few minutes, Gabrielle. I hope you like chicken pie. Good. Jeremy, why don't you take Gabrielle into her room so she can put her things away,
Come on.
Well, she's a little shy right now, but, oh, she'll feel right at home very soon, I know.
I'm sure she will. And I think she'll be able to talk to Jeremy easier than to us old folks.
Yeah. Well, I just don't know how to begin to thank you.
Oh, now you boys are going to stay to supper, aren't you?
Well, yes, ma'am, would be happy to, Miss Pastor, if you think you got enough of that chicken pie left.
Well, of course I do, Hoss. I knew you were going to be here, didn't I?
Smells awful good.
May I have your coat?
Yeah.
It ain't much, but it's clean. Mom made me scrub the floor twice.
I'm sorry you had to go to all that trouble.
Oh, it wasn't too much trouble. You want me to put that stuff in a drawer?
I can do it.
I don't mind.
All right.
I guess you'll be going to school with me, huh? The kids are real nice. You'll like them. That Mr. Hanley, he's an old bear.
Well, I've never been to school.
Never been to school? How'd you ever manage that? Oh. I'm sorry, Gabrielle.
You don't have to be.
Have you been blind long?
All my life. But I don't mind. You don't miss something you've never had.
You're sure a pretty girl.
Gabrielle, we'll drop by and see you a couple of times a week just to see how you're getting on. And I just know you're going to be very happy here.
Don't you forget that Christmas party. It's going to be a real fancy shindig.
It sure is. We'll have a good time. Thank you very much for a very, very nice supper.
Thank you.
Thank you. Night.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Gabrielle, how'd you get out here all by yourself?
I walked. Don't you think I can walk?
I was worried about you. Mom and Pa told me not to let you out of my sight until they got back.
Everybody treats me like a baby, just because I can't see. That's why I want to go live with my grandfather.
Why are you always talking about going to live with him?
Because he needs me. I want somebody to need me, instead of it always being the other way around.
Well, you wouldn't like living with him. I've heard about him. He sounds terrible.
He isn't terrible.
Sure he is. He's just an old hermit with a dirty beard. Hey, what'd you do that for?
He isn't just an old hermit with a dirty beard. And I can prove it to you.
How could you do that?
You just take me up to the mountain. I'll show you.
Oh, I couldn't do that.
You're scared.
I ain't either. It ain't that.
Yes, it is. You're scared of an old hermit. That's all you are. Just plain scared.
I'll show you who's scared.
What is it?
It's a cabin. I think it's your grandfather's.
Take me there, Jeremy. Please?
Gabrielle, let's go back.
No! Do you see Grandfather?
I don't see anyone, Gabrielle. I think we better start back.
Listen. Goat bells. Grandpa must be here.
Get out of here! Go on, get out!
No!
Come on, Gabriel, let's go.
But I don't want to go.
Go on, get out of here, or I'll skin the hide off you. Ain't you got ears? I told you to get out of here!
Grandpa, I can't see where to go. Grandpa!
Well, you can stay here and freeze for all I care.
Grandpa!
You're terrific. Boy, you're really intense. So did they cast you to match the mother, or did they match the mother to cast the mother to match you?
That I don't know. Yeah, Evelyn Scott. She was one. We were talking about those. You and I were talking about those actresses that did all the early television, and she did a lot. And a redhead, yeah, good, very good, solid, and I liked her a lot. I liked Kevin too, and Kevin could have easily been my father. Yeah, he looked.
Yeah, you guys definitely looked like you were a real family as far as that's concerned.
Yeah.
And the long shots on the horses, was that stunt doubles on the horses, or was that you guys?
No, we never. Well, actually, the Grandpa's cabin itself was shot at the 4-Star, the old Republic Studios, or what is now CBS Studio Center. That stuff, we shot a full day, the exterior of that, and so did the Cartwrights, and you'll see later. The actual snow shots were doubles shot up in the Sierra Nevadas somewhere.
They must have been tiny to play kids. So were they little people, or were they just short people?
I don't know. It's obvious. We did that one traveling shot on horseback, and it was so funny. They probably spent 3 hours. The Wrangler spent 3 hours with us, and both Diane and I were really good horse people because we'd done a lot of Westerns. At least I had. But that was a fun afternoon. I remember we got to ride around on the Paramount back lot. Here's the question for everybody. Was that real snow, or what was it?
Had to be a blend, although when she falls on the ground, but I noticed there was something weird dripping off the rocks in the one part, so I couldn't tell if it was, I don't know. There's got to be somebody who'll know that answer. Does anybody have a guess? Venture a guess? Nobody's guessing yet.
We're in Studio City, California, in the middle of July, so they couldn't do real snow. And the giveaway is if you look at our feet when we're walking, anyhow, maybe someone will answer it.
Well, I noticed on your feet when you were walking, it kind of clumped and stuck to your feet. But then when she falls to the ground, it looks like it's just kind of a puffy kind of, I don't know what it would describe it as. Nobody's venturing a guess, so I think you're going to have to tell us. Oh, wait, let's see. It looked like foam. Somebody said cornflakes and somebody said foam.
No, soap suds.
Oh, that makes sense.
And this machine, the big water tank and a machine and then put the soap in and suds it up and shoot it all over the place. I'd never seen it before. I didn't see it since. There was later a guy, and I remember using him on Fame. We would do snow on the indoor sets, the New York sets, that had this snow machine that everybody used. But yeah, no, it was soap suds.
Since I could see that. Now that you know the mystery, it's like, of course it's soap suds, right?
Tom Carr kept saying, don't, try not to shuffle your feet because the soap suds would gather, unlike real snow. I can remember everybody was like amazed. No one had seen it before. I remember Dan Blocker just saying, this is bizarre. Anyhow.
So when you run up the hill away from the grandfather, that was in a studio, like they had built like a little hill that you could run up?
No, it was on one of the backlot berms at the old Republic studio, which at that point was 4-star. And yeah, it's funny you bring that up. I had a sense memory that was rather treacherous, going up and down. And poor, Diane, you had to, since she was like this, she could see, but she couldn't look down at her feet, so that was rather difficult. I remember bringing her down and me running up the damn thing because
Oh, right. I hadn't even thought about that. I bet it was slick. Yeah.
Probably 95 degrees out. And we've also got the, all the stuff on. It's just, the magic of Hollywood.
And you're here to just destroy it for us, huh? That's awesome.
And again, that's the moment with John Abbott, with the grandfather character. That's the moment when I went, whoa, who is this guy? Because he's been so nice to me that whole morning, But he's a good actor.
Now, after the scene when he was so gruff, would he come over and apologize and say, sorry, he scared you, or he just kind of went back to his old ways?
Just doing his job,
Business as usual, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. We had an actor on Fame, Michael Cerveris, who's now become a Broadway famous star. He's won numerous Tonys, and wonderful young actor at the time at Fame. And he was born and raised in West Virginia, but he was playing a English kid from, London, going to the School of the Arts in New York City. So you can imagine, it was quite a challenge for him to pull that off, to make it believable that he was English and from London. So he did that thing a lot of actors do. Kurt did the same thing on Elvis. He would stay in character all day. He would not talk. And I was thinking about Diane Mountford. As soon as they said cut, this was fine, and then as soon as they rolled the cameras, she was blind, Some actors can do that. But Kurt had to do that with Elvis, because there was a certain cadence to the way Elvis Presley spoke. And if you lost it, it was hard to find.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, somebody mentioned, let me see if I can find the comment. Boy, women learn to manipulate men at a young age. That slap, was it a real slap or did?
Oh, the slap. Yeah. Wow.
Because she really smacked you.
That was really my own fault. She, of course, we did 2 or 3 takes and she was way far away from me. And the director, Tom, had said, I'm at a good angle. So if you play it, and we'll put the slap sound in, It just wasn't working because, again, she couldn't look to where she was slapping, So it was up to me to get my face sort of in range. And the take that you see she really slapped me.
Were you shocked? Like, did you say, I got to stay in character and I got to get mad now?
No, I said that, I think I said to the director, I said, I'm just going to let her slap me. And he said, okay. The only other time that happened to me, I was doing a movie called Death of a Gunfighter with Richard Widmark, who had become one of my best friends. It was my second movie with Richard. And he had a scene where he had to backhand me. We got in an argument, and he was supposed to slap me. And we rehearsed it many times, and I did the reaction, and the angles were all correct. Adrenaline, actors. First take, boy, he nailed me. But we didn't break character, and that's the take you see in the movie.
Oh, really? What'd you say after they said cut? Were you like, what the heck, dude?
He went, oh, Mike, I'm so sorry. Are you okay? You know, he really nailed me too. I had a little blood, and
oh,
yeah.
really? Wow.
Yeah. I remember. I don't remember the actor telling me a story about. It was a stuntman. It was Hal Needham, the famous stuntman, telling me that he was doing a fight scene on some show and had an actor from New York. And he said to the actor, okay, I'll take the punch, but you don't have to come close, and I'll make it work, And sure enough, the actor said, oh yeah, I've done a lot of fight stuff. Yeah. And first, the camera rolls, adrenaline starts to flow. And Hal said this guy clocked him. I mean, he just almost broke his jaw.
Wow.
Yeah, it can be dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. So, but
that's why they pay them the big bucks.
I knew that poor little Diane couldn't pull off the slap because she couldn't see. She, was looking.
She was in character. Yeah, there you go. Which brings me to the last one, and then we'll get back to the final sequence. When she says to you, oh gosh, what was the point I was going to make? When you tell her that she's pretty, was there a line that was cut? Because it looks like she kind of reacts, but it faded out. Was there more to that scene? Because it seemed like a strange line that kind of came out of left field, but
it felt that way to me. I don't remember. I remember I felt that way about her. I remember thinking, she's really pretty. So it was very real on my part. And like I said, she was an older woman, like a year older than me. Yeah, it seemed like an awkward moment, didn't it? Yeah. But I don't remember. And it was sort of clumsy edit too, I thought.
Well, that's what I mean. It looked like she may have reacted or said something after, but it was fading out. So it was like, did they just cut her? But I was just curious because it was sort of an interesting, where she just kind of, I mean, even though she's blind and she's already staring at you, it was like there was still some reaction there, which was funny. I know, kids. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so why don't we go ahead and we'll finish up the last segment. So we get to hear everybody sing. We get to see Christmas. Oh, come on. You've enjoyed this. This has been your nice night out, a night in. This last segment is 18 minutes and 20 seconds.
Oh, my goodness. All right.
Probably take us to about 18 after. Well, you've told so many great stories.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
I'm going to be brief when we get on it.
That's fine. We can wrap up real quick and say goodbyes. Oh, well.
Whatever. If they have questions, I'll answer.
I was going to say, you need to go get you a cocktail or a Red Bull or something.
I may do that. I've got 18 minutes.
You got 18 minutes. We'll see you then.
Okay.
Grandfather? Is that you, Grandfather?
What do you want here?
We were on our way to find you. Mama and Papa were killed.
Why did you come back? I told you to stay out of here.
You're my grandfather. I wanted to come. Grandpa, it's so soft. Is it muskrat?
Beaver.
Sounds like you're getting a cold, Grandfather. Onion syrup is good for that. And I can make a tea out of wild cherry and dogwood bark.
I'm taking you out of here.
But I don't want to go.
And I don't want you here, you understand?
I'm staying, Grandfather. Your shirt has a hole in it. You see, Grandfather? You need me.
Hey, Joe, them's my best socks.
Yo, I needed the biggest sock I could find for Gabrielle. Come on, you two. Let's go pick out that Christmas tree.
Yeah, make sure it's the finest one of the Ponderosa, too.
Ben.
Well, Everett, what is it?
Jeremy took Gabrielle up the mountain, up to her grandfather's.
Up to
Grandfather's? What in tarnation for?
Well, she teased him about being afraid to take her up there. He didn't think it would hurt anything.
Well, you mean she's still up there?
Yeah, she's still up there. Jeremy tried to get her to come back with him, but she wouldn't budge. Ben, I feel terrible about this, but, well, he's just a kid.
It's all right, Everett. It's all right. Go saddle the horses. Everett, you go back home. Take care of Drusilla.
Look, Grandpa, I mended your shirt. Papa told me so much about you. How you used to take him fishing in the mountains. How you read to him from this book. He told me how they sent you away to prison, even though you didn't do anything wrong, and how he tried so hard to see you. They wouldn't let him. He loved you, Grandpa. This is my favorite book. I'll read to you, Grandpa. I know most of the stories by heart. There once was a man and woman who had long in vain wished for a child. At length, God was about to grant her wish.
And I want you to read with me.
Maybe you are just an old hermit with a dirty beard.
that old buzzard's hurt that little gal.
Easy now.
Grandfather, is that you?
Gabrielle, it's the Cartwrights. Are you all right, darling?
Grandfather went away. He went away.
What do you mean, Gabrielle?
He doesn't want me. He went away. He's been gone all day. He hasn't come back.
Gabrielle, you'd better come back home with us.
I mended his shirt. I know he needs me. Why doesn't he know that?
Gabrielle, honey, this ain't no place for a little gal.
But I don't want to go back. I tried so hard. I've got to stay here.
Hoss, you'd better pick her up.
Paul, don't you think maybe...
Put this hat on her and pick her up. I don't want to do this any more than you do, but she'll be much better off with the pastors. Come on.
But I don't want to go. Please, I don't want to leave Grandpa. Maybe if I call to him once more. Grandpa! Grandpa!
Jeremy. Gabrielle, I know how you feel. And I know how much you wanted to be with your grandfather, but... Well, you see, we just didn't think that he was the kind of man you should be with.
But maybe if I'd stayed with him longer, he would have changed.
I'd like to believe that, but we just couldn't leave you up there all alone.
I read to Grandpa, out of the book. All about Rapunzel, little Joe. I think I lost the book.
Oh, you have a wonderful home here, Gabrielle, and people who love you, and you have friends. And we are your friends, aren't we?
Yes.
I have lots and lots of books, Gabrielle. Be glad to read to you anytime.
Yeah. I'll teach you a couple of things about horses I'll bet you didn't know, too.
Gabrielle, you can have a wonderful life with us if you'll just give us a chance. You can have anything you want.
I just want to be needed, Mrs. Pastor.
We need you, Gabrielle. We need you very much.
But my grandfather needs me more.
Now, you promised me that you'd give the pastors a fair try until Christmas, remember? Now, tomorrow night, we're going to have the biggest Christmas party the Ponderosa's ever had. And I want you to take that scowl off your face so you can enjoy it, do you hear me? Come on now. How about a little smile? Huh? Come on.
Hey, here they come. Come on, let's get ready. I'm gonna sing a bass.
Just sing on key, will you?
All right, boys. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Let earth receive her King. Let every heart prepare him room. And heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing. Joy to the world, the Savior reigns. Let men their songs employ, while the fields and floods, rocks, hills, and plains. Repeat the sounding joy, repeat the sounding joy. Repeat, repeat the sounding joy.
Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, Carol. Merry Christmas.
You know, it took us almost 2 weeks to decorate this room.
You know, I think every pine cone from the Ponderosa is right here in this very room.
That's right. Now, here's the tree. You know, it's so tall it goes all the way to the ceiling.
Does it have an angel on top?
The most wonderful angel you could ever imagine.
Yeah, with pink wings and a golden halo.
And over here is a feast fit for a queen.
Mm-hmm. We have turkey and cranberry sauce and apple pie and dumplings. I hope you brought your appetite with you.
I'm not very hungry.
Well, I sure am.
Well, you all.
Wonderful. Look at that.
Ho, 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 ho! And a Merry Christmas to all!
Well, look who just came down the chimney.
Somebody came special to wish you Merry Christmas.
Who is it?
St. Nicholas himself.
Ho, 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 ho! And what would this sweet little girl like for old Santa to bring her for Christmas, huh? Ho, 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 ho!
I know who it is. It's Hoss.
Hoss? I don't know no horse. I'm Santa Claus.
You can't fool me, Hoss. It's just like Grandpa's beard.
Well, let's have a little music here and liven things up. How about a couple of carols before supper?
All right, Ben.
Oh, come, all ye faithful, joyous and triumphant, oh, come.
Welcome to the Ponderosa, Zechariah.
Don't hand me no welcomes, mister. I don't want no part of your world, you hear?
Well, then what do you want?
You stole something from me.
Stole something from you?
You know what I'm talking about? My granddaughter. I aim to speak to her.
Grandfather, where are you? Grandpa, I'm so glad you came.
There's food inside, Zechariah, and a warm fire. We'd be mighty pleased, and Gabrielle would be too, if you came in and joined us.
Please, Grandpa. Please come in.
That ain't no place for me, child. My home's up on the mountain in the wind and the snow.
But you just have to see the beautiful Christmas tree. It's got an angel on top with a golden halo. It's the very most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
You've ever seen? You can't see nothing, child.
But I can, Grandpa. Somehow I can. Inside, I can see.
Can you see me?
Yes, Grandpa. I can see you. And I love you, Grandpa, very much.
I'll go and look at the tree.
Maybe
maybe stay for a little while?
I'll stay with you a little while, Mr. Cartwright.
This has been a color presentation of the NBC Television Network.
Get everybody their proper credits. Mike went to get a drink and never came back. There he is.
Oh no. Who?
Was that you or was that me?
I don't know.
That was weird.
Something's
What's that?
talking. No?
No, I don't know. I heard a voice. I don't know where that came from. So I noticed in the credits you're Mike McGreevey, but then you
Yeah.
changed it to Michael McGreevey.
Yeah, I guess some of the early stuff. I'm Mike McGreevey on Riverboat too, and I was introduced twice, and I think I was as a kid I was introduced as Mike McGreevey. Yeah, I don't think the Michael came until young adult or adulthood. Yeah.
Andy made a comment that this show was a big deal. First Bonanza Christmas show sponsored by Chevrolet, lots of publicity, pictorials and regional TV guides and Sunday supplements and such. Do you recall it being a big deal?
Oh yeah, I have the LA Times Sunday supplement thing.
Do you really?
Yeah, I have. It all stops when I turn 18 or 19, but my mom kept all that sort of stuff when I was little, and yeah, I have that one, and I was telling my wife, I remember this was a big deal. It was the air date was Christmas Eve.
Yes.
And yeah, and my two sisters were very upset because that was we used to open our presents on Christmas Eve. We had to wait till the end of the show. So they were mad at their brother.
They were not excited for you, huh? Is that what you're saying?
But, yeah, it was a big deal. And, you know, the idea that they didn't do that many Christmas shows.
Yeah.
All those years. But, and this was the only one with all four of them.
Well, and interesting to see them all out on horseback out in the snowy mountains, because you never see that ever either. And it was literal, you know, it was them because they did the close-ups kind of thing. You always thought they would never send them out there.
So they had this script at a certain point before they started, because probably all that second unit stuff was shot before the regular shooting schedule. So they had all gone up to Incline Village and you know, done a bunch of you know, exterior B-roll, B-camera stuff, and so that was very cool. That one shot of them all hiking past the camera was very cool.
Yeah, I was surprised, but it was cool. But I mean, that's neat that it was shot up at Lake Tahoe, especially that early on in the season, or in the series, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Well, yeah, and again, they weren't a big hit yet. I mean, this is the season that made them a big hit. Yeah. So, but if you notice the subsets that Lauren Green was being very careful walking down the subsets.
Oh, that spot that you had said was really slick.
Lauren was sort of tiptoeing through the subsets. The other thing that jumped out at me when watching this is that Christmas tree. It was magnificent, and those were real candles lit on that Christmas tree, and they had a fire guy with extinguishers and everything off camera.
I can imagine.
Yeah. You know, you never see Christmas trees with candles on it.
I guess back then you did, though, right? Was that something that was
That's
in
how they
the
did
period?
You can imagine how dangerous that was.
And they wonder why so many buildings burned down back then, right? Which is not good. Andy keeps wanting to know, can you speculate about why Tommy Carr didn't direct many more Bonanza episodes? Because he did such a great job on this one. Any idea why he didn't do any more?
I think age. He
Yeah?
was a young man when we did this. I don't know what his health situation was, but I would guess that he was, you know, heading for retirement. My God, he had done a million of those B Westerns at Republic and serials. I talked to him. One of my favorite shows at the time was Superman. And Tommy directed the majority of the Superman with the George Reeves Superman, Adventures of Superman. So, you know, he was towards the end of his career. I have a feeling that might be why he didn't do more. I know Bill Whitney, who was also from that time, did quite a few Bonanzas, but at one point it sort of, you know, was Bill was just too old.
Do you recall any sort of special direction that Tommy Carr gave you? I mean, as far as in the way he directed you, or did he pretty much just give you direction and you rolled, or did he ever take you aside and say, okay, I need you to do?
No. You know, I mean, watching this now, it wasn't that challenging for me. I just come off Riverboat, which I had a lot of stuff, and I had done a lot of work. So this was not too difficult. Tom Carr was not one of those directors that over-directed people. He just sort of let the actors, if you were doing it okay. I think the biggest discussion we had was about the slap and how to do it. Other than that, I don't remember. Again, it very relaxed set. You know, everybody happy except for Purnell. And,
Well, he seemed happy at the end, and with all that food, did you guys get to eat that food? Was that real?
Yeah, I think he enjoyed a little bit of that. I noticed he actually interacted with me at one point at the door, which sort of surprised me. But that sequence is where I really adored Michael Landon, because he really paid a lot of attention to me that day.
Well, was that pretty exciting to actually be on the Ponderosa? Since you were a fan of the show, was it neat to actually be on the set of the house and be like, oh my gosh, I'm on the house?
That was all interior, you know, even the exterior was on the soundstage. It was a massive set. The exterior where we came out at the end there and the grandpa's, that's on the soundstage.
Right.
And you really go, when you go in that door, you really go into the interior of the Ponderosa living room.
And it just had breakaway walls, so they would just put the cameras wherever they wanted to set it just right.
Magnificent set, incredible set.
So it didn't kill your image of it because you saw the inside movie magic, huh?
Well, you know, I was just so used to that, you know, and the big reveal was the subsets as snow. You know, that I had never seen that before. But you know, it's funny. I was never jaded by knowing how the process of filmmaking. I mean, I still sit and cry at movies, you know. So I'm a good audience. You know, the suspension of disbelief. I go for that really well.
Well, fast forward then to when you did the return. Did you actually go up to Incline Village, and were you on the set for any of it? No.
They didn't invite me. That's what they do to the writer all the time, though.
That's because when they rewrite it, they don't have to hear you talk about it.
I had a wonderful session with Ben Johnson and Jack Elam. I had lunch with them, and we went over the script together, which it was one of my most favorite times ever. These two, you know, it was really towards the end for both of them too. And I had worked with Elam on the way west, and he was a good friend. But I hadn't met Ben before, and you know, Ben was just a special guy, special actor, special person. And at one point we were going through the script and we got to a scene and I said, okay, this scene here is between the two of you. And Ben said, yeah, do I really have to say this first thing? And I said, no. And Elam said, well, if he doesn't say that, I'm not going to say this. I said, well, no, obviously. And slowly but surely, they asked for all the dialogue to be eliminated. And I finally said, so you guys are telling me that you just want to sit at this table and look at each other?
And they said?
And Ben Johnson said, we can do that.
And you looked at him and you went, no. How'd you get the job to write the script? How did that process come around for you to write the script?
Well, what happened was I was brought on, originally they were going to do a syndicated series, sort of like they did later or tried to do.
With Ponderosa?
Yeah. So I was brought on as a producer and head writer, head guy to handle the series. And we were unable to get a syndication deal, mainly because Dortort, you know, he just wanted too much money for these episodes. And I had come from syndication. I had done the Fame series, and I knew that there were limitations, you know, and you just couldn't get this kind of money, but he kept holding out for that. In the interim, we went into NBC and pitched this idea for a 2-hour movie. And but I was brought on to the original thing, mainly, I think, because of my my friendship with Michael Landon. And I didn't really know Michael Landon Jr. at the time, but I'm sure his dad had talked about me, and you know, I know Kent McCrae knew me. So that's probably why I was approached to handle first the syndicated series that never happened, and then the TV movie for NBC.
Is that why there's multiple names as far as the written by, story by, teleplay by?
The story thing, Michael Jr., very late in the process, said, well, you know, we had talked about a lot of this stuff, you know, and it was before I was even brought on. And the other guy, Brinson, he had contributed a little bit of the story. So I didn't fight it. I said, fine, story, I'll share story, but I want teleplay. I want the full writing credit, because nobody wrote anything other than me for the movie.
So even though they didn't invite you up there to the set, you must have visited the Ponderosa Ranch. Did you ever visit it in Incline Village?
Years before. Yeah, just on my own.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I didn't go up for any of the shoot. We really didn't shoot that much. It was mostly exterior. It was all exteriors, and a little bit inside the ranch house. I had written originally a sequence where the bad guys set the Ponderosa on fire, the actual lodge, and Kent McGreevey sat me down. We can't do this. We can't even fake it, you know. So I think I adjusted it for something else. I had forgotten that had even happened, but my wife and I watched it again. My feelings about that movie were rather negative. I was sort of disappointed with the what the outcome was, but watching it again, it wasn't that bad. I mean, the problem was we didn't have any of these iconic people.
Yeah.
You know, it's just impossible to do Bonanza: The Return and not have anybody.
Return. It's called The Return, but nobody returned.
It would have been nice if Purnell had just done that little cameo. Yeah.
Yeah.
It would have just given a authenticity. The NBC saved it they did a documentary that was the lead-in.
Oh, the Back to Bonanza special? Oh my gosh, that was dynamite. That thing still lives on in infamy in many of our hearts.
Yeah. And it helped as a lead-in to the movie. So the movie did incredible numbers. I mean, it was a ratings success.
But not enough to get the syndication or to get it for the series?
Yeah. No, that never happened. They did one more movie with that cast. I wasn't involved. So, no, I had a falling out with Mr. Dortort at one point, and was sort of pushed aside. You know, it was his baby, and I never said it wasn't, you know, but I did all the work. So, you know, I want to get some credit here. Anyhow.
He was very protective of those credits, but he did have the title pages in his house. We saw a video earlier where they actually show the pictures in that, like he's got the opening title with the title of the movie. So he obviously liked the movie. So.
Well, it was his big comeback. Yeah. He hadn't really done anything in quite a while at that point. So, yeah. And it was a success. Great.
Carol Trent says, this has been fantastic. Please thank Mr. McGreevey so much for taking the time for this wonderful time he has given. Yes, many of the fans are very appreciative for you. It's so much fun to watch these episodes with somebody who knows the inside scoop of them, like an actual person.
Yeah,
you make it a lot more interesting for us, which is wonderful.
As my wife pointed out, you know, almost everybody's gone. You know, Diane is alive and well in Mexico, I guess.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I think I told you at one point that she did a commentary for the DVD release.
Well, that's Andy Clyde, the one who keeps asking all these questions. He's the one that arranged that.
Okay. So
if he'd known you, he probably would have recruited you too.
Yeah, I mean, I would have pretty much said the same stuff. The one thing I didn't talk about was Anthony Lawrence, was Tony Lawrence, who you said has already been on. But the funny thing, the only other time I met Tony Lawrence is he wrote Small World, the Elvis movie that we were talking about that turned Kurt Russell's career around.
He wrote that?
Yes.
Really?
He had written three Elvis movies and knew Elvis very well. And he wrote the TV movie that John Carpenter directed and Kurt starred in. Yeah. So I went to the set a couple times to see Kurt. And one time I met Tony Lawrence, who, you know, was a contemporary of my dad's. So my dad knew him, and terrific guy. And he was the one that wrote, I don't know, he did the teleplay on all three, but he did the Three Wives thing.
Four. Haas's mom got 2.
There you go. Did he do both the Haas's mom?
Well, they kept it consistent. He did all 4 of the flashback wives, because David wanted to make sure, I guess, that it was a consistent writer's voice kind of thing, because, you know, that's definite Bonanza lore that we all feed into as far as
Inger was Haas's.
Yep.
See, I had to research all that for The Return, and
I bet.
there's one really nice scene in The Return where they find the scrapbook in the phone. And,
that's right. Yeah, that was a really nice scene, because somebody was commenting they liked the cast for AC, which was it was Adam's son, was the guy from, I guess, Australia. They said that, is that what you wrote, that Adam had lived in Australia and his son was Australian?
Right. Blame it on me.
Yeah. Why'd you decide to make him Australian? Was that just felt like the right thing to do, or?
The discussion was, it was for syndication to have it's good to have, and, you know, we threw in, we had Richard Roundtree, you know, we put in the African-American character, which, you know, was totally absent from the original series, obviously. We did switch out, Hop Sink became Buckshot, which was Jack Elam. Looking for comedy. I mean, you play with all these things. I think the Australian thing was David Dortort's idea. Yeah. Now that I remember it.
So did you guys sit down and brainstorm together certain things that were deal breakers? Like David would say, okay, you have to have this in there, you have to have this, and then you would write it and he would correct it, kind of thing?
Pretty good. It was good at doing that, because he really knew, you know, he had a recall about all 430 episodes. I mean, it was, and I'd go into Kent McCree's office and I'd say, what about this episode? And Kent would say, I don't remember that. He said, we did too many. I don't remember that. But I was telling my wife, and then I'll let you guys all go. I did get to see the original pilot, the ending where they all sang the theme song.
Yep.
If that's available to the normal public.
Yeah, it's on the season 1 of the DVDs that Andy's made sure. We're up to season 11 where they've remastered them. They're absolutely beautiful. So
wow, okay.
They've done a nice job. And that's what he does, is he gets a lot of these extra things. In fact, there's a Christmas Chevrolet commercial and a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that on mine. But I can remember Kent McCrae sitting me down with Tom Sarnoff and watching the original pilot with the singing at the end, and I said, "Oh my God, did they air that?" And Kent said, "No. Somebody at NBC said we can't have that." But it's a classic. I mean, it's one. You know, we were all on the floor.
Well, the pilot, and it's, as you as a writer, I'm sure can appreciate that pilots are always so raw, because you're probably told you have to establish all this information, and it seems so extraneous at the time to establish it quickly and get everybody to love these characters. And
yeah, you go back and you look at pilots of almost any series that ran a long time, and most of them don't hold up. The one that just leaps out at me was Friends. That pilot, the writers had those characters, and those actors had those characters in the first half-hour pilot. I mean, and that usually doesn't happen, but it's probably why it was a hit.
Did you write your pilot episode for Fame? Had you written you didn't write any of those?
Movie, yeah.
What's that?
Fame was based on a movie.
No, I know. Oh, well, that's true. So you're saying it was already established, the characters were already established, although you changed them up. They weren't exactly like the characters in the movie, were they?
Pretty well, no,
Pretty close.
Well, different actors. Yeah, the actor that played Leroy Johnson was from, and Debbie Allen. Debbie Allen's character changed quite a bit, and Carlo Imperato was in the movie. The Danny Amatoodle character, but most of the character, and we added characters as the seasons went on. You know, like I said, Michael Cerveris came in the last season as Ian Ware, the British rocker.
That was such a great show. I mean, thank you for that show, because it really was a very fun show to.
It was so fun, and from my beginnings as a dancer and musical guy, it was perfect. I mean, we were, it was Mickey and Judy every week. We were putting on a show every week. You know, it was really great.
That's true. I caught an episode the other day, and there was a big dance sequence out, I think, in the street. I guess the taxi driver dad was playing the song. It was his son's song. I guess it was Bruno's song, and he was playing it on the speaker, and everybody came out dancing and having a great time and took over the street. And it was so New York, but it was so awesome.
We did a lot of what we would do in the last 3 seasons. We went back to New York in the summer and would shoot portions of about 15 episodes, the exteriors, and we always did all the numbers in Manhattan and New York. So we had a different look, because actually the show was shot in Culver City, California. So.
Oh, was it really? And everything was on the stage or the sound stage?
Yeah, we had a huge, actually it was stage 27, which is where they shot Wizard of Oz. We had a huge indoor-outdoor set of the school with a street. And it was amazing sets, yeah.
Nice. So I know it is getting very late, so I'm going to let you go. But just to wrap up, so what do you do with your time these days? Are you still writing? Are you still producing? Are you still?
No, I'm pretty much retired, and you know, COVID has sort of made that
made sure of it.
In the last 10 years, I got into documentary filmmaking and made several documentaries, including one about the creator of the Waltons.
Right.
Yeah. Then I had some health issues, and I've just sort of cut back. My wife, who was an educator, retired too. So until COVID hit, we were having a lot of fun. We're still having fun, but it's just the two of us inside the house.
She's over there going, yep.
Yeah. I still, you know, every once in a while, I'll write something or do a little video or what?
Your book?
You have a book?
I'm supposed to be writing a book.
Really? Just about your career and your experiences in the business?
A memoir. I'm too lazy, but
well, you got this COVID thing. You got nothing but time.
Yeah, at least I tried, and at least I started it. So maybe I'll pick up and keep going. It's very hard for me, again, because my orientation is, I know this is fascinating to people. I understand that, but you know, to me it wasn't, you know, it wasn't that fascinating. It was just my life. But I have to sort of divorce myself from that and say, you know, I can write an entertaining little book about the people that I was involved with. I mean, I was lucky enough to be involved with some incredible artists, you know.
Well, we will keep an eye out for it. Now you have a bunch of, let's see, there's 25 of us in here that are going to be bugging you for it. So please keep us posted so we can buy it from you.
I will.
But this has been wonderful. Thank you so much, Michael, for your time and your energy. I know this went a bit later than it should have, but man, you are so interesting and you tell such fabulous stories, and your recall is just amazing. You just gave us some fabulous information about our beloved Cartwrights. So we definitely appreciate that.
I'm glad I could do it.
But you stay safe and have a very, very Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays.
You too.
And we hope to see you soon. So take care. Thank you very much.
Okay, stay in touch.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.